pianist.
It's us.
Okay.
It's
I think
us.
you got that.
So
I think we got that.
So we've gone through that a few times. Everybody likes a dress rehearsal, and so it's nice to hear that everything's working.
Too much sound.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Harry, that was too much sound.
yeah,
Never heard that before. No one has
all
ever
of you were far too resonant, and it carried over too well, and that's just a problem. So I think we're gonna let people trail in, but I think we can get started and talk a little bit about what are your hot takes and your immediate responses to seeing this program come to fruition and so fabulously.
Oh, I will take that if you
Go,
don't
yep,
mind.
no, go on.
That was my first time seeing it. I have to watch the music. I'm seeing Kerry from the side to watch it and see her portray the characters and the text and watch your face and watch each thing that you created. It was like it was out of body a little bit. It wasn't even like watching me and Kerry. It was like, oh, this duo that's doing this thing. She's telling this story. I've never heard it before. It was amazing to watch it from here and see it from this vantage point. So your storytelling slayed me all over again. Was like, oh, that's what it's about.
Oh. And I had the opportunity, as being in such close connection with what you're playing and the part of the story that you're telling and allowing me to breathe into next phrase after phrase. I got a chance to just enjoy it more and listen to the very specific color choices and some of them that had not been chosen before that we chose on the spot, which was
it just went with it.
So it was a little bit out of body, as if watching another
truly
couple of people doing something amazing.
Hey, these guys are
pretty good. I like them. They look fun.
No, it was such a fantastic diverse set of programming, and I wanted to ask how you both Jennifer and Kerry came to collaborate together in order to kind of design this program that's very femme-centric, women-centric, and trying to highlight specific pieces and composers that really align with things you wanted to share on the stage.
Well, a few years ago, I had done a version of this program, but there was something really special about collaborating with Jennifer in particular, especially with her amazing concert pianist chops. It's a rarity to find a concert pianist that can accompany. They're usually not the same beast in any way, shape, or form. So to have something in mind like the Amy Beach in her fingers just made sense to say, we should just do this program. And knowing how much she is such a champion of new music, to work on the Calamity Jane, which is a pianistic beast and not pianistic in a lot of ways, and yet perfect in every way, that only a concert pianist could play it. And then Julia Seeholter we're friends with, and so to really champion her music and her stunning Take the Breath Out of the Room trio of songs was really important, and I think is going to be something that we keep bringing to the fore.
Yes, people absolutely need to know that music.
They do.
Yeah,
agree.
Zach, I don't even think we've gotten a chance to talk about it before, but what preempted you or pushed you to want to create this kind of program with Jennifer and Kerry?
Well, we've been discussing what to do because I love working with these people as often as possible. And this just sort of was synchronistic. They'd done a program that was not this, but something a little bit like it a few years back. And so we decided to do a re-riff update of that program. And, we'd actually scheduled this to play last year, but right before it was supposed to happen,
like a week before,
visited us, and the world shut down. And so here we are. We finally got the chance to get into the venue that we were going to use, and we had to go through all this documentation of COVID testing, and everybody's quarantining, and I'd already been vaccinated, and so like it was a thing. But when we got into the room, it was like this great homecoming, and everybody was so on the same page, and the energy was so great. So I'm just really appreciative.
Sure. And there's so much complication that goes along with trying to create a program like this during a pandemic or during quarantining, with all of these special considerations and everything being up in the air. And yet somehow like it all pulled together so seamlessly into such a gem of a program. Is there anything else you wanted to share about art creation or cultivation during this time and all the considerations that have to go into that? Carrie, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think for me, it's twofold. I think that one, obviously, we're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with not knowing what the situation of arts will be as we come out of it. We're dealing with total deprivation of performance until now. And even now, it's in an iteration that we're not familiar with, right? There's no audience, there's no symbiotic energy exchange. So there's that, but there's also that we're at a very crucial time in performance in general with relevancy and exclusive performance. We're dealing with, female composers, a transgender poet, those that were traditionally excluded from the canon. So we've got the pandemic and we've got this giant shift in focus at the same time. And it's a lot to navigate, but we're here for it.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of doing this in a different way without an audience and not having that relationship forces us as artists to pull everything from the inside out and be more prepared on an emotional level, on a technical level, on a musical level, in order to take the risks appropriate to actually tell the story with the grave depth that it requires. Especially in a program like this, especially in a time like this. No more fluff.
No more fluff.
Even the fluff isn't fluff. Even the fluff has to have story. Even the fluff has to have depth. It can't just be thrown off because I'm technically able to do it, because I'm not going to be uncute and say things I shouldn't say on the YouTubes.
Uncute. I know, but
I love a candid comments.
But it's so true. I think one of the things that we've talked about as we've been collaborating over the years, and especially this last year, both of us took time off to go all the way in and decided not another note if it doesn't mean something.
Yes.
Not another note for money. It's got to mean something. It's not just a job. We can't, and it is not a time for that. This is a time to rally.
And don't you think that the gift of the format that we were presented with was partly that we had to not only do that work, but we got the opportunity to literally build the space to create in.
Yeah.
That memory of us being in that room together and literally controlling everything that happened and everything that was in the environment. Like, we got to select the energy, we got to select what we're going to focus on. There were no other concerns.
Right.
We didn't have a clock. Like, it was just a really heart-wrenching moment.
Yeah.
For I think all of us in that space. So and it told in the product, I think.
Yeah. No, it was a special. It was very, very special.
I think you've just landed on the silver lining of this entire time, is that's a gift that we have not been given previous to this exact situation. So to create art in that space in that way was truly singular. And now I'm like, do I want to go back to the old way? Because that was pretty awesome. Yes, maybe with some people in the room, but yeah, it was awesome though. It was a whole different way to make the music and say the thing and be present and collaborate. It was new.
And I think going back again with more of that absolute inside out, because then it's the little things on the outside won't affect the storytelling, and everybody's going to have to just get on our storytelling train. Get on the train, yo. Get on the train.
That's literally, Cheers.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think we've all seen how. Let's take it.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
I think we've all seen how everybody's life, especially performance artists, have been so impacted over the last year and a half, and um, it means a lot that you point out and identify the importance of alignment. We talk about alignment with singing technique or as instrumentalists, but this emotional and for some people spiritual alignment, philosophical alignment with program creation and deciding what you want to highlight. Can you talk me through the emotions of the actual like filming and production process?
I can sum it up in one sentence. Kerry, I'm uncomfortable.
You need to build upon that. I need more details.
Yeah. How does one build on that?
Yeah. Everything we did leading up to the production time and in the space of driving to the production and in the room, it all felt like a completely new thing that we had not explored.
Mhm.
There was so much, it felt in moments like, oh no, there's too much opportunity for spontaneity because the energy is so right that this could just take a completely different turn and we would just go. And that's uncomfortable. It builds, it's not that kind of where you're really sharp, filled with adrenaline, kind of uncomfortable. It was a different, grounded,
Yes.
absolutely ready to take in whatever was supposed to come through and give it back out, which was people talk about wanting that, and it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable,
friends.
So you're
because
on a tightrope.
Yes. It was a crazy realization. I think before the pandemic, we were both, we were gigging and it was work for hire and it was 4 or 5 performances in a weekend sometime. And I didn't realize that that was sort of a detachment thing that was safe. Like I just put it all in the work bucket. I didn't have to emotionally connect to it because I needed to be right on to the next thing. It was uncomfortable for me because it was like, wow, this is the only thing I'm doing today and tomorrow. I have to think about it. I have to connect
Take it
it. And the things that are being said and the people that are saying them are so important and so heavy. And I can't run away. And I wanted to run away for a lot of it, quite honestly. Like, no, but I have to sit in it. And I have to sit in it with Kerry and I have to show up. And then and it was uncomfortable and I wasn't expecting it. So it was quite the fascinating journey to be on.
Do you want younger artists who are developing in this time, who are in, let's say, undergrad or graduate programs for vocal performance, to take on this, or as instrumentalists? What do you want them to take from your example with this program today? Because it was so potent, and all of those feelings, even though you were experiencing them, transcended and translated into a program full of authenticity and rawness and on a level of technical excellence, of course.
Yes, I think that right now, especially if for undergrads in particular, I think that we're constantly bombarded with the message that it's the canon, it's the canon, it's the canon. And if you don't do the canon, then somehow it's less than. And of course, we draw on the greats. And of course, the canon is something to treasure. However, just to encourage them to embrace the new, to embrace the minority voices, to embrace the alternative, and to boldly present the art that's being made now. That's our time, our culture, our time to speak, and do the canon, but also bravely. That would be my statement.
Yeah, and to explore what actually speaks to them as they're finding out who they are. Like, what is their voice? What do they want? What do they want to see themselves in the world as? And not as, I would like to be a concert pianist. I would like to be on Broadway. Okay, who cares? What do you have to say?
Right.
And what's important to you? And who are the people with whom you can collaborate now that you can learn from each other and say something that feels like you're actually making your way in the world with your actual voice.
And what I love seeing right now is that there are several institutions, universities and conservatories that are making space for that, not in the canon,
Yes.
stuff, and that frankly should be.
To them, yes.
And
And so it shall be.
part of one of those institutions, but it's coming around, but I think it's long overdue that we should have been, supporting contemporary music and not having this sort of this sort of connotation around it that it is less than the canon.
Correct.
The canon was at one point contemporary music.
Yes.
Right.
And often booed and often hated and often reviled and rejected, like as all fine art is. And we've forgotten and we've put it on this untouchable pedestal that I think needs to be re-examined.
Totally.
In the development of such a vulnerable and like honest program, how do you feel this support from Festival Opera, as well as Zach helping you cultivate this production and bring it to life? How was your experience with that? How did it help? I want to hear more.
Propose a toast.
Yeah,
I propose that. Yeah,
if we could start
Yes.
with that,
Yes.
that would
Yes.
be great.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
Yeah.
Well, I will preface this, whatever you ladies are going to say, with it makes my work so much easier to be surrounded by people that are more brilliant than I am, that have something to give, and who I'm happy to make space for their ideas, their inspiration, and their voices. And I think as opera companies and as producing organizations, if you're not going to give your artists platform, support, encouragement, enabling, you're not doing your job. Because I've been just a singer in my life, and I've been that sort of, okay, you're a show dog, go on, talk to the donors,
Yeah.
For me, clown.
Yeah.
home. And that's not the opera company that I want to be part of. So
Well, and that was clear in the entire process as things were shutting down the first 1 year ago. The way in which you communicated with us as artists and kept encouraging just open communications as things were going, and nothing was in your hands. However, there are several companies, as we know from news, that did not do that, and people found out they didn't have a job and nothing was being rescheduled on Twitter. And
I got one of those.
Right? Yes. And so, like, the fact that you have the understanding as general director about the whole of how an organization like this works from inside out, top to bottom, artists feel so safe in your hands. And that was clear when we walked in that door, and the energy of the room, we went, oh, is this what this is going to be? Okay. It just was, yeah, it was just like, there was a clarity in what we needed. It was things that maybe we hadn't thought to ask for were ready for us. Like, we brought our own food, but there was food there, and we had forgotten all about, adrenaline and how that works. And when you're working with such text that is so draining, and you really want to give everything, you need a little bit of sugar in between.
It's gut-wrenching work.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. So everybody should be clamoring to work with you.
Yeah.
Because of all of these things and the platform. And then the fact that we said, once we had worked on Julia Seeholzer's pieces, and we're like, we're taking Alma Mahler out. It's an interesting story about how Gustav, shoved her down, but this is timely. This is brilliant. This young woman is an up and comer. She gets it. The story that she tells is, in that collaboration with she and the poet, so the fact that you just went,
Yes.
okay, yes, of course.
And as we were saying before, with it being such a vulnerable journey and such a new journey and such an uncomfortable place as an artist anyway, I know I walked in feeling raw, and it was so essential to walk into this supportive, welcoming space where it was safe to be that. And so often we're all performing artists. We know how often that is not the case. And you are not treated with support. And I really needed it to be what it was, Zach.
Exactly
So,
what it was.
so much praise to you and to Festival Opera for being exactly what was needed.
Thank you. It's my responsibility. I just that's my job. So thank you for being a part of it.
Well,
and
thank you.
inspiring me to make that space for the people that I am a huge fan of both of you. And I know we go back a long ways, but just the contribution that you've made, not just to the art, but to the lives of the people who have experienced what you do, that's important to keep that fire hot. And that's important to keep nurturing. And, you know, as in my little position, I hope to make space for that for people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you did.
It matters. It matters so much.
It matters.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. I'd love to say that I'm surprised that Zach took so much care to make sure that your experience was wonderful in filming this, but I'm not surprised at all.
I get hungry too. So.
Yeah.
So hungry.
I'm so hungry right now. Yeah. Can we just talk about after the Julia Seeholzer? No, I need food right now. We cannot go.
Can we take a break?
I need a
I
minute.
need to eat right now.
Where them berries at? I need it.
Seriously. Yeah.
Well, building on that, you talked about how every note from now on, in terms of your musicianship and your artistry, has to be meaningful. Where do you see, both of you, where do you see moving forward in terms of your artistic output? What are some of the goals that you have now that you've achieved such a wonderful program this year?
That's a very big and excellent
question. Yeah, we want to do
more
this
with Festival Opera.
Yes.
I didn't want to plant any ideas or put any seeds, you know, I just...
But also.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I have to honestly say, I don't know. I think it's going to unfold in a way that's unanticipated right now. I think that I know the premise. I know that I don't want to go back to being the workhorse or being, you know, like gig after gig after gig because you're paying me to do it. And I'm the hired gun that shows up and I leave and okay. You know, I don't want to make those notes anymore. I know that. So from that place, I will launch. Where I will land, it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, and I think it's clear with whom we want to work.
Mm-hmm. Also that.
And I think that more honest connection with humans in the way that we can through the things that matter already to us other than music, I think we will find more people that we want to work with musically. Mm-hmm. I think the more people that we get on a more human level, the more we're going to understand. Like I already know composers I don't want to work with. Like I could not name and no names right now, but people that I go, no, that doesn't feel authentic. So I don't think I can't sing your notes because if they're not coming authentically from you, I can't interpret them authentically.
Well, that's the piece. That's that thing that music is just a communicative device. And if you're cued in and you get all the layers of what that means, whether it's spiritually or emotionally or however you want to talk about it, that reinforces the essence of what you're doing.
Yeah.
If that essence is kind of off, you don't want to be a part of it.
No, and I personally was not in tune to that before because I was so conditioned to just, you know, that you take the job and you show up and you play and that's what it's about. And this past year, I mean, I didn't play the piano for probably 8 months, not once. And it was a complete reckoning with why am I doing this? Why am I making sound at all in the world? And now it's like, oh.
You should.
Yeah.
Oh, we have things to say. But we need to say things.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it seems like now it has to be about saying the thing. And if it's not saying the thing, if you don't have a reason to say the thing, be quiet.
Or say it in a different way.
Yeah. Or be quiet.
Or be quiet.
Okay.
I like a good reframing personally. Yes.
Yeah.
But
that intention
Yeah.
really what aligns everything. And like you said, that intention has been missing when, especially as we're brought up in this country, especially as artists, we're taught that we have to hustle and we have to get the gig and we have to like keep going and don't upset anybody and just show up and do your job so that
you better be busy, or who are you if you're not busy?
which is all fine. And I'm a huge fan of a work ethic, but at the same time, you have to temper that with truth. You have to temper that with heart. And if those pieces aren't involved, it's really, really hard to do your job. And it's hard to do it at the level that you expect of it inside from yourself. So,
and I think that was the outcome of this too, was the level of our collaboration that came to fruition because it had space to finally do that. We always knew it was right there. And yes, there were always amazing moments and wonderful points of alignment together, but there were moments in this that we were like, did that actually happen? Or did I dream that? And then we watched it and both went, that actually happened.
And two, like, just so, because they're not going to humble brag, that thing was done in one take.
Yes. Thank you, Zachary.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to tell them that. That's important content.
And we
I
get
do appreciate that.
too, at the very end, literally so we get to cut, and everyone's jumping up and down and squealing like children, and it was great.
We really were.
Yeah.
That was relief.
Yeah. What just happened?
I can't
Now can I
imagine. Like,
eat?
Yeah, now can we eat? I need a hamburger.
And so we did.
that sounds like incredibly cathartic. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about the production process and how I would say intimate and integrated a lot of the work and output that we're creating for Festival Opera is?
There's so much to say. So Festival Opera is not a large company. We typically allocate as much resource as we can toward our artists. And so, we don't have a huge tech crew. Sometimes we engage them when we have the funding to do so, but this series was really supposed to be like just a bump up from house concerts. So when we did the budget for this, we didn't factor in things like a camera crew and a sound crew and things like that. So I'm someone who has always had to be extremely self-sufficient by necessity. I did not come from privilege, and I did not grow up having access to the things that a lot of people have access to. So I've had to be a builder my whole life. And so I bought the stuff, I did the thing, and this is really my first time doing multicam anything. And so, I studied, I watched tutorials, and a couple of sleepless nights, but we got to the end of it, and there were subtitles, and I had to put them one line at a time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm just, that's not all to complain. I think the thing that drove me through all that process was being in the room with Jennifer and Kerry and knowing that this can't fail. This has to be good, because it was the energy and the storytelling and the women who were being represented in this program. They deserve to have justice done to their work. So I did my little humble offering, and
don't say humble, because to be in your hands in particular, knowing the ear you have, knowing the eye you have, knowing the aesthetic, and that you are on the same page as, again, like to hire that out in this instance may have not been the best idea anyway, because I would have been a little more uneasy in some ways.
I can completely sympathize with that. And
yeah,
that was a beautiful little, serendipitous silver lining to this whole situation. Is like we got to like curate this beautiful little gem, and every little piece of it was filled with some of our souls. And so, job well done.
Yay, guys! I wish I could hug you, Zach. Air hug.
Air hug.
So the problem with having such a successful program is you have to come back and do something new again with
Okay.
Festival Opera and let me chat about
Okay.
chat about what you create after this. It's been such a pleasure and honor for me to have this conversation with so many talented and passionate individuals. And again, I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to work with General Director Zachary Gordon for Festival Opera. We're going to be premiering a podcast this year as well, which I would love, Kerry and Jennifer, if you could join us for an episode sometime for Behind the Mask.
Yes.
And then we can share some more raw, true to life stories about art cultivation and how that lines up for us authentically. Carrie, it's always like a pleasure to see you, and seeing you perform in this way after so long really just filled my cup. And Jennifer, such a pleasure also to meet you and get to experience your artistry firsthand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ruchi.
Yes, thank you so much.
This portion of the event.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, you'll all see us again soon on Festival Opera. Please subscribe.
Yeah.
.org. Come visit our website. Come see us live when we can be back in theaters. And in the meantime, look for our digital offerings. And we're just so pleased that you've been able to share this with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.